Hey everybody, welcome to the press. Welcome to our second episode of the week. We're going to look at the model, horse for course, course fits, current form, all those kinds of extra things that we do in the second show of the week to get you ready for the biggest tournament of the week, which this week is, of course, the U.S. Open at Pinehurst #2. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for being here. Taking off in the car in probably about 30 minutes, so we're going to get this show recorded up, and then we're going to hit the road. I'm heading down to Pinehurst today. A buddy of mine from my golf club is doing some spotter work for NBC Sports this week. So we're going to get down there this evening, and then we're going to get after it and have a great time. So let's get into everything that you need to know about the model, and then we'll get into horse for course, current form, all that good stuff. So as you know, if you've listened to the show for a while, if not, first time, welcome. Happy to have you here. Please consider subscribing. But either way, let's go over how the model works, how I've done this for the last 4 years and change. And the way this works is this is meant to kind of be a ranking system. This is not meant to be predictive. This isn't meant to be a million simulations or anything like that. That is not how I work. I work based off of a model that weighs short term, long term, and longer term. And that comes from the belief that you are who you are. Typically, your foundation of who you are as a player is who you are for a long time, years at a time. At least one, maybe two, maybe five, but I like 1 and 2 year windows, rolling 1 and 2 year windows. So we use those just purely based on strokes gained because every golfer is different. They gain strokes differently, and they can all be success. They all got to this level of being successful at golf because they gained strokes in total. How they did that is different from player to player. So to focus on one statistic over another most weeks of the year is a bad idea. This is one of those weeks for a variety of reasons. One, this golf course has not hosted this tournament in 10 years. So the overwhelming majority of the players in this field have never played competitively at Pinehurst #2. Ever. Certainly not in the last 10 years. Then you add in that this golf course is set up to be extremely difficult. Right? And a lot of the players have talked about how the greens are already, as Wyndham Clark said, borderline. They're very crusty. They're fast. They're going to pose a problem for players putting. So some of the usual setup quirks that you think about and how you gain strokes on the PGA Tour, particularly with putting, are out the window. This is the USGA setup. This is not the PGA Tours. It's a little bit different. And then it's also important to me that I double underscore how important just gaining strokes in general is, and it can vary wildly from round to round. So you may, Scotty Scheffler is a great example in how he won the Memorial. He typically gains a ton of strokes off the tee, does very well. And then this past week when he won, he gained hardly any. I mean, he gained, but hardly any. He gained more than 12 strokes on the approach. Incredible stuff. Even when he found himself in trouble, found a way to get out. That is not his typical formula. So I don't really care about the formula as it relates to, how you think Pinehurst #2 should play. That doesn't matter. Also, you can win different ways. You can succeed different ways as a player. And this being, of course, we don't know as well because we haven't seen it in a decade. You can't really use even course fit particularly well. We will talk about course fits, but we won't use data to talk about it. So this is not a particularly predictive course, right? You only see it once a decade. That all said, let's take a look at the model. I call it, it's really a rubric, but model. And you're not going to be particularly surprised by the players, I think, in the top really 20. But here we go. We'll do the top 10 here, and then our members at golfnewsnet.com, $40 a year, $10 for 1 week. You get the full thing. But the top 10 is not particularly shocking. Number 1, Scotty Scheffler. Number 2, Rory McIlroy. Number 3, Bryson DeChambeau. Figured out a way to play the majors the last couple of years. Now, he doesn't have a huge data set, right? Because I don't have LIV strokes gain data here. They just started doing strokes gain data on LIV, and even that's kind of wishy-washy. So this is just purely when Bryson's played PGA Tour recognized events, and he's 3rd. Limited sample size, excellent results. Xander Schauffele is 4th. Cam Smith is 5th. Again, we cautioned in yesterday's show, he shot an 80 in the final round of the LIV Houston event. So take that for what you will. Brooks Koepka is 6th. Collin Morikawa is 7th. Victor Hovland is 8th. Dustin Johnson is 9th on the back of his history in this tournament. And then Hideki Matsuyama. So another part of our model is how you've performed in this tournament in the last 3 years and how you've performed in the last 10. We've changed that for this year. Last 10 PGA Tour events played. Now, Dustin Johnson being so high surprises me because he's really played like junk in the last year and a half. And I thought that would start to drop him off a little bit, but especially in the last year. But it hasn't quite yet. That will fall precipitously soon. Some other players to consider. Matt Fitzpatrick at 11. Jon Rahm is 13. Some guys want to highlight. Ludwig, number 19. Just to kind of get those guys on your radar and thinking about them. So there's your top 10. I don't think any of that is especially surprising from the LIV contingent. Bryson's the guy. Jon Rahm, remember, has a bum-infected left foot, and he says there's some kind of like hole between his small, his pinky toe and the next toe, and that's a lesion. So it's going to be pretty painful for him. He's been wearing a flip-flop around on the one foot, on the left foot, and a golf shoe or a regular shoe on the right foot. That might tell you something. Might not want to put your money on him. So maybe a guy to back out of. Dustin Johnson not playing well on LIV. Other than that, Hideki's been very much up and down this year. More kind of mediocre than anything. Fitzpatrick has been great recently. Absolutely worth a guy worth looking at. Wyndham Clark pretty much talked himself out of playing a role in this championship. Seemed like yesterday in a news conference where he said the greens are borderline. Well, that's not complaining. That's you telling me that it's not good. It's not going well. And you might not be particularly happy. He also talked about a very limited set of expectations for the rest of the year. So that's also something that's bothersome, right? I mean, if you're basically saying, I don't know what I can do the rest of the year, setting the bar low, well, don't think about it for this week. There's a reason why he's 75-1. It's probably worse now. Now, let's switch over to looking at our short-term form. So we're looking at, in this comparison, the last 5 PGA Tour events played. So obviously that leaves out LIV guys, but they also haven't played 5 events in the last 5 weeks, right? I mean, they've only played the one event since the PGA Championship. So if, they played okay in LIV Houston, and they played okay in the PGA, which would be Bryson maybe? I guess that'd be it. David Puig has been playing pretty well. Those would be, I mentioned those guys yesterday. Those would be my LIV guys. Everybody else, I'm out on. All right, so let's look at multiple top 15 finishes last 5 PGA Tour events played. Sam Burns, 2. I think you need to pay attention to that. T13 at Wells Fargo, T10 at Canadian Open. He can absolutely play well on this golf course. Corey Connors, T13 Wells Fargo, T6 Canadian Open. Ball striker. Bad short game, but ball striker. I think Ryan Fox, I will continue to say this, sets up very well for this golf course. T4 at Myrtle Beach, T7 at the Canadian Open, both tight courses. He won on the old course, or likes the old, he didn't win on the old course. He likes the old course. With more room, I think he's a better, more dangerous player. Billy Horschel's playing well. Victor Hovland, a couple of top 15s in recent memory. Sungjae Im playing great golf, excellent short game. Keep that in mind. And the short game's been getting better. Bob McIntyre back this week after a week off after winning in Canada, breaking through. I think that was a smart thing in the long haul. Rory McIlroy has been in the top 15 in every single of the last 5 events he has played. All of them. Won Zurich, won the Wells Fargo, T12 of the PGA, T4 at the Canadian Open, T15 at Memorial without his best stuff. I'm not saying this is his tournament, but the most consistent player right now, other than Scottie Scheffler. Colin Morikawa is probably a better player right now but he doesn't have as many top 15s, and that's really off by 1. But the top 15s are really freaking good. T4 at the PGA, T4 Colonial, 2nd at Memorial. I mean, he's the guy standing up to Scottie Scheffler at the moment. Xander Schauffele, better player probably than Colin Morikawa at the moment, if you're going to put it that way, because Colin hasn't won. So 2nd at the Wells Fargo, which he nerfed himself, but then won the PGA, T8 Memorial that no one talks about. Scottie Scheffler has been incredible. He is clearly the best player on the planet. T8 the PGA after being arrested for felonious assault of a police officer. 2nd at Colonial when he was clearly tired, and 1 at Memorial. There you go. Sepp Straka also playing extremely good golf under the radar. Feels like T8 Wells Fargo, 5th at Colonial and Memorial. Playing great on tough golf courses. I like that. Sahith Theegala. Love his imagination around here. Now, there will be some argument, and I think there is some reasonable argument that chipping and putting, or chipping around here is not particularly crazy. If you can just kind of hit your little bump and run shot, there aren't going to be a lot of guys taking putter off the green. They shouldn't. They should either bump a little wedge in, or even more intelligently get out a 3-wood or a hybrid or a 4-iron kind of thing and just skid it up, get it moving, take off any potential grain in the Bermuda, take off potential slope, and just get the ball on the green and start it rolling. Learned that the hard way when I played with Willie McRae, was my caddy 13 years ago when I played at Pinehurst, number 2. After the Masters that year, they had a media event, and I learned from Willie how to play that golf course. Now I got to go play it again someday. All right, now, top 15 finishes in the U.S. Open in the last 5 years. Keeping in mind we had a September 2020 U.S. Open, although that was especially difficult at Winged Foot. So here are the guys with multiple top 15 finishes. Patrick Cantlay, Harris English with 3, Matt Fitzpatrick 2 with a win, Henley 2, Hovland 2, DJ 2, Brooks Koepka 2. They were wins. Well, I guess one's outside of that scope now. Actually, both are outside of that scope now. Wow, we are getting old. Both are outside of that scope. So 2 top 15 and 2 wins before that. Rory McIlroy, 5 out of 5. He is a fixture in this tournament. It may not be the one you think he loves the most, but this could work to his favor, especially if putting is bothering everybody. He's not a great putter. So we talked about this in the Masters. If you're not a great putter, you love the Masters because everyone struggles putting there. Everyone's going to struggle here for what it sounds like. We'll see tomorrow in person, but that screams to me something good for McIlroy. And for Schauffele, for Scheffler, all those things too. For Morikawa, 3 top 15 finishes last 5 years. Jon Rahm, 4. Xander Schauffele, 5 out of 5. We've talked about this before. We'll talk about it for a second again. Masters and the U.S. Open before we won the PGA were the majors I thought, and pretty much anybody who analyzes the sport thought would be his major to win. One of those two, not a PGA. Well, here we are. This is his major. The one he likes the most. Scotty Scheffler, 2. That's actually not true. That should be 3. Had a typo there. Adam Scott, 2. If you like that idea that Sandbelt golf is going to apply here, might be a good time to like Adam Scott. Gary Woodland, 2. And Will Zalatoris, 2. We really don't have course fits this week. I mean, we just don't have a data set about Pinehurst number 2 with the proper strokes gained comparisons. But the way I think about it is, yeah, you got to put the ball in play. The rough is not rough. It's more random than that. I think that makes it scary. The greens are extremely spicy. You want to miss short. You do not want to miss long, left or right, especially if there's a big drop-off. If it's fairly flat in the drop-off, all right, fine, whatever. But short is your prevailing better miss. If you're too aggressive, if you make mistakes, if you're not hitting it straight to your target, you're asking for a lot of trouble. I think you need to be able to work the ball a little bit here this week, especially when the USGA gets its hands on some of these hole locations. They're going to try to force the golfer to work the ball. And if you're trying to hit a cut and you hit a prevailing cut into what is effectively a side hill, if you miss, it's going to rebound balls all over the place. I think you need to be able to work the ball here. Just a little bit. Or hit a dead straight ball and know that you need to take certain pins out of play. Aggression is not going to be especially rewarded here. Hitting to the right side of a small target is going to be your best bet here. And then be aggressive when the right target fits your eye. So that's your current form, horse for course type folks. I want to look at, sorry for the mouse clicking here because I didn't have this tab open quite yet, but I want to look for and show you the short-term data, short-term model. So we're going to look at the last 10 PGA Tour events played, okay? And we're looking for players who are gaining strokes by by at least 1.2 per round in total on average. We're looking for at least 1.5 quality strokes gained per round on average, and that is a multiplier of your total strokes gained times the quality of your competition is measured by the official World Golf Ranking. So in a major, your strokes gained are multiplied by 2. Last week, where you got almost 70 points to the winner. They'd be multiplied by 1.4. If you played in a week event, where maybe you only got 30 or 40 points for winning, be multiplied by 0.6 or 0.8. Kind of follow me? We're also looking for players who are gaining at least 0.6 strokes per round on the average on approach. Here are the players who meet that total strokes criteria. Bryson, playing great in the majors. Scheffler, Schauffele, Dean Burmester, playing well in the majors. Rory McIlroy, Bob McIntyre, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, Sepp Straka, Brooks Koepka, Sungjae Im, Justin Thomas. And I think there's something to be said about this. We're going to come back to him in a minute. But he is gaining 0.7 strokes per round on the approach. He's putting horribly. I don't care. I stand by that putting is not going to matter this week as much. That is not my concern about Justin Thomas. If he could just kind of get out of his own head a little bit, he might be able to win this thing. Just saying. He's won a major in North Carolina. He likes playing in North Carolina, likes kind of that part of the world. Maybe. Minwoo Lee, we're going to rule him out because he's been horrible on the approach. Aaron Rai, not really part of it. And then Hideki Matsuyama. So that's your list for strokes gained in total. In terms of quality strokes gained, all of those guys I just mentioned, minus Aaron Rai, and add in Alex Noren, Russell Henley, Tony Finau, who's playing great on the approach. I mean, phenomenal approach golf right now. And Sahith Theegala, basically the same guy in that regard. Okay driving the ball, okay putting the ball, marginal chipping the ball. But what they're doing in terms of their approach play is phenomenal. Now, the guys who qualify via the approach, Bryson's not one. He's just killing it off the tee. Not saying he's not playing well, generally speaking, but there is also some effect with gaining so many strokes off the tee and your approach play. So keep that in mind to a degree. If you're not gaining a ton of strokes off the tee, it's easier to gain strokes on the approach if you're a great iron player, right? Because you, versus your peers, that's a big differentiating skill. If you're Bryson and you hit it 10 miles and then you don't hit it especially close, you kind of get penalized a little bit. So just keep that in mind. Other guys that meet this criteria, that meet the other two: Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Dean Burmester, Rory McIlroy. Now, McIlroy's been very balanced, and it shows. I mean, it's just really good-looking golf. Victor Hovland, Sepp Straka, Justin Thomas, Russell Henley, Tony Finau, Sahith Theegala. Like those are guys who satisfy at least two criteria as well. So think about all those. A lot of those names we've talked about already because they're playing well and it shows in the data. And that's the beginning and the end of it. Ludwig Aubert is just about right on the doorstep of every metric. Right on the doorstep. So he didn't qualify for any of them, but he's right there in all of them. I mean, just short. 1.472 quality strokes gained. 1.115 total strokes gained. 0.45 on the approach. I mean, right there. Right there. Grayson Sigg, by the way, a name to throw out, a super mega dark horse. 0.778 strokes gained on the approach, on the aggregate, but he is not good at putting, and he is marginal at driving. If he can just keep the ball in play and not totally mess up putting, you might have a really good dark horse this week. All right, I think that covers all of those things. Now, I want to get back into the market, everything we kind of go over this week. I would like to get into the current market just to kind of bring it all the way back, just to see if anything's changed. Scotty's gotten shorter. Xander's gotten, Rory's gotten a little bit longer. He's now 11-1. Not that that's a big difference, 10-1 or 11-1. Morikawa's 14, Hovland 18. Bryson, I think, is a good play at 20. Ludwig, I like at 22. Fleetwood, you have to rule out because he doesn't win in this country. Rahm, you have to rule out because of the injury, I think. Justin Thomas, 40-1. Man, that after looking at that data, starts to make you think a little bit. Cameron Smith's 40-1. I don't understand. Sahith Theegala, 45. I love him and probably will bet him, but Fitzpatrick, 45, feels pretty good after looking at some more data. Hatton, I would have told you at the PGA to bet him, and I probably did, but I don't feel that way right now. Finau, 60-1, feels great. Sepp Straka, 75-1, feels like a great number. Tom Kim, I've liked what I've seen, but if you look at this short-term model, the data just doesn't really support that. .177 on the approach, .533 in the aggregate. That's well short of a high standard. The finishes might be better, the play might be better, but the data is not there to support a bet. So I will take that off. Sungjae at 75 to 1, same thing. If he's kind of right on the cusp. He meets 2 of the 3 criteria. Great putting, great off the tee, great chipping, great approach or around the green play. He's losing strokes on the approach. I mean, he's saving it with everything else right now. That I would love to bet him based on form, but based on that number, I think that's probably a pass. Then Russell Henley I like quite a bit at 80 to 1. We talked about Dean Burmester being a great player, but how can you bet him to win a U.S. Open? Bob McIntyre's playing great, 130 to 1. I mean, come on. Adam Scott, 110, kind of interesting. Ryan Fox, 150. We talked about Ryan Fox as a guy I really like. Ryan Fox is putting it great, driving it well, approach play, just about losing. So that's why he's 150 to 1. I know he has the capability. I know that's there. So it might be worth, notating that. But there are some red flags in the strokes gained breakout data. At that 150 figure, though, which is kind of interesting enough to maybe have a couple bucks. Aaron Rai has been playing great golf, 180 to 1. I just can't get there with him. I know the data is there and good, but I just can't get there with him. So I'm gonna skip over that. And then maybe David Puig be my super mega long shot 250 to 1. He's probably playing the best golf on live right now. Rahm and Bryson are very good, but Rahm's injured. Bryson's been playing well. Mac Meisner is also playing very well at 400 to 1. I'm not betting him to win, but I would like to look at him in a top 10 or 20 here this week. Grayson Sigg, same thing, top 10 or 20. If he gets it together, that's pretty good. Harry Higgs playing great golf, same thing, top 10 or 20. If you're looking for some very interesting value plays at that level of outright odds, I think that's worth a consideration to you. All right, that should do it for this episode. Tomorrow we will go into matchups, props, tournament winning score, winner without, all those types of things that we really haven't covered so far. First episode's outrights, second episode's kind of a data dive and tips based on that data, and then third is, all right, let's look at some other stuff that data may or may not dictate as much, and let's get into that a little bit. We will also talk about the LPGA in Michigan, and we'll talk very briefly about the Korn Ferry Tour being in Wichita, Kansas. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the show. That would be awesome. Leave us a 5-star review. That helps. Give me a follow on social media at Ryan Ballengee on every social media service except Facebook and YouTube. Just look for Ryan Ballengee Golf there. And then Golf News Net is every one of those services at the handle Golf News Net. We'll be back with our next show. Let's kick some ass this week. Hopefully you're getting great value out of these episodes, and hopefully we come out with some winning tickets come Sunday night.